All right, so let's get started. So today, for those of you who didn't hear me, I am recording this section for those who have class because I did have a couple people reach out to say that they wanted to attend but they're in class. Obviously, that comes first, so I understand. But this session is specifically going to be for, it's a general overview of the four-year plan to help you get started. As you can see, I'm sharing the SOE Hub website. This is where we're going to begin. So I'm just going to start. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end, I promise. All right. So here we are on the SOE Hub website. So the important things to know is that pretty much everything you need is on our website, and we actually updated it again over winter break. So there's fresh info and support here. So if you just click academic resources and support, it's going to take you right to the section where you can see there's this little bubble with registration support for those of you in the class of 2026. And what we're doing today, of course, is the four-year plan. So we're going to click this button in a moment. But of course, for the SAM meeting, if you haven't found it yet, this is a whole resource. And some of you may have been with me last week, but this is a whole resource to walk you through the SAM meeting, why it exists, and what you need to prepare for that required meeting. But as mentioned, this is what we're doing today. So we're going to start with the four-year plan templates. If we scroll down, clicking the class of 2026, you will easily find the Excel document, so the template that we're going to use for the four-year plans. What you're about to see, if you haven't yet, is that we've basically done 90% of the work for you. So it's just personalizing it to what you've experienced so far and what your goals and plans are. This is the PDF template, so hopefully all of you have a copy of your specific major, but if not, you can download the whole booklet of your cohort's template. And the other thing that I want to point out is you can see we actually are going to keep your cohort on our website until you graduate. So even 2 years from now, when you're a junior, if something happens, you pour coffee on your laptop, you lose your four-year plan, you can always come back to the hub, download a new template, get the PDF. We do keep them safe here. All right, so starting by downloading the template. So as you can see, it downloads as an Excel document. As an RPI student, you should all have access to Excel and Microsoft Word products. If you are not sure about this, please let me know. You can email me individually, which is fine, or you can reach out to your advisor. We can all help with that. But of course, having Excel is going to be incredibly useful from now until you retire. Basically, it's just part of the world we're in. So, I do know that not everyone knows how to use Excel, so I'm going to give some tips on how to move content around and highlight boxes and that kind of stuff, just to give everyone a crash course. But to begin, you're going to need to enable editing, and the very first thing that you should do is go to File and save it somewhere safe on your computer. Hopefully, you guys have an academic advising box that you can, a folder on your desktop that you are keeping your plans, important documents, forms, even emails that you want to keep in a safe space. This should be amongst that. And then at the bottom of this spreadsheet, you will see all of the templates. So if I move this, we should get all the way to nuclear engineering. So what's really useful about this is I'm going to start with this blank template. So the blank template basically gives you the space and should have the formulas set up so that you can easily copy and paste from templates into this space, especially if you are currently undeclared and you've been doing your own thing as you figure out what majors you want to declare. For those of you who have declared a major, this is still a really useful tool. And the reason why I think so is because it allows you to keep, for example, if we look at the arrow template, you can keep all of this exactly as it is. You know, you don't accidentally delete anything or move something or retype over it. You have this perfectly formatted template. But of course, as we know, you can always download it again. So if something drastic does happen, you can get another copy. But you can start grabbing this. So say you're on template as an aeronautical engineer, you can copy that. So you can either do Control C or go right here to copy, go to your blank template, paste it right in that box. So as you saw, that number goes up. Um, and that formula can support, you know, you making sure that you're going to be a full-time student. So remembering that, you know, 12 credits, over 12 credits is full time. Whereas if you're somewhere between the 16, 18 credits, that's going to make sure that you're graduating in the 4-year goal, if that's your goal. So that's how easy it is to begin to set up your 4-year plan. As mentioned, this is going to be, you know, we did 90% of the work for you by creating these templates. The 10% is that personalization. So this is where you start to add in the stuff that's unique to you. So first off, you know, as an example, you want to type in your Haas inquiry course, something along those lines. I'm pretending that I took econ. When you look at each major template, you can see that there are purple boxes throughout the templates. What these are is they're signifying that you have to make a decision about that particular course. So obviously this one is super simple. Hopefully all of you guys are very aware of your Haas requirements. If not, I'm going to do a workshop on that next Wednesday morning. But you know, you have that IHSS course, whether you took it in the fall or you're taking it right now. But you'll see as you click through that here are the remaining Haas credits. So there are, of course, going to be 5 on every template. You're also going to see other decisions to make, like, for example, with aeronautical engineering, you have an engineering design elective, and there's options here. So I'll get in that a little bit more in a moment, but first I want to continue working on this blank plan. So the other thing that is very common is that students bring in transfer credits. So if you do, for example, have transfer credits and you bring in Calculus 1, it is perfectly fine to delete that again because we're using our blank template. We have it saved somewhere else. You can bring Calc 1 over to your template. And you can, you know, if it helps you to write that it was an AP credit, sweet. That number went down. And I'm guessing that if you brought in Calculus 1, now you would have taken Calculus 2 in that fall semester. So you can just copy paste that right in. And again, the formula should help you keep track of your credits. If you ever notice that that breaks, and here's where we start to get into some Excel tips, this is called an auto sum. It's one of the formulas on Excel, and you can actually find that right here. So we're on the home menu, and if you come over, you'll see the auto sum. And if you click it, it automatically does, it's very smart, so it's usually spot on, but it recognizes what you might want to add up. And it will help you with calculations. If you double click, you can actually see what the formula is. And for those of you who are, you know, into this kind of stuff, coding, Excel is a great problem solving tool. So it's nice to start to get comfortable with it if you've never used it before. You can use it to do amazing things like change color of boxes. Of course, you can do equations. This is a very simple equation, but a really helpful equation. If you want to change the color of boxes, so if we're polishing up our very first semester at RPI, we made the decision about this, so technically we could get rid of it. You can see this little paint can up here, it just changes it to white. You can also change it to no fill, which maybe is a cleaner way to do it, but that will help you, you know, bring attention to things. So for example, if you're considering maybe dropping CAD in your fall semester, you know, you can highlight that in the midst of the semester as you're making the decision, or if, you know, there's any other signifying that you want to do, there's ways to draw attention to certain lines. Okay. How are we doing so far? I'll actually pause and look at the chat if anyone has any questions for me with what we've just covered, or are we feeling okay? I'm realizing I don't have the chat box open. Where is it? Chat. Okay. Looks like we're okay so far. All right. So now we're going to get into the meat of this curriculum planning. So for this example, I'm just going to quickly copy paste this over because for the SAM, for the 4-year plan, what your advisor is expecting is a thoughtful draft of this plan. So what we want to see is that the fall semester and the spring semester reflect what you actually accomplished. So if you are advanced in your math courses, of course, it will look something like this. And then the next thing that we really want you to do is that we want you to independently plan your fall semester based on your curriculum. And then, of course, the remaining semesters. So for some, this is going to be as easy as copying and pasting the semesters over and then making decisions and writing in your plan for Haas. So it could be that simple for sure. Also, I just realized I did strength of materials instead of differential equations. Hold on. Let me fix that so that this plan makes more sense. Cool. All right. So as an aeronautical engineer, and again, we're using this as our example, because you're advanced in math, we could safely assume that we can move everything in this template over, um, paste, but we're 4 credits short. So in this particular example, there is an easy solution, which is going to be continuing with our math core. However, once we do that, we're realizing that we're going to be 4 credits short here. And the question is going to become, how do I know what I can bring up? Of course, it is, we are all aware that this is your first time maybe taking full control over your curriculum. So it is potentially a tough question to answer. But that is where the college catalog comes into play with this planning. So I'm going to go back to my browser. We are going to go to the registrar's office, and from the registrar's office, we are going to find the academic catalog. And if you scroll down, actually, before we scroll down, this is your catalog. So as the class of 2026, you began your time at RPI in the year of 2022. Your second semester was in 2023. This is really important because your curriculum is specific to your cohort. So as you can see, there are archive cohorts that go all the way back to 2007. So this is why we say you never want to Google your curriculum. If you Google your curriculum, odds are you're actually going to pull up the 2007 catalog, which has nothing to do with what you're doing now. And actually, it's really easy for advisors to tell if you Googled your curriculum based on the classes that we see in your plan. So just make sure that you use the templates that we are providing you, again, right off of the Hub website. And then in the future, make sure that you're looking at the 2022-2023 catalog. All right, so if we scroll down, we'll look at programs, and we are using aeronautical as our example, so I'm just going to click on that. And then, just as we recommend doing with Quacks and Sys with splitting the screen, I'm going to do the same thing. Oop, here. Except not with that. I'm going to do it with my Excel. All right. So the trick of this is, of course, how do I know what I can bring down now that I'm 4 credits short and I'm moving through my curriculum? Oh, I never deleted this. Hold on. All right. So now I'm 4 credits short. So what I recommend doing is actually going to the catalog, and for classes that you're not familiar with, you can grab information right out of the catalog and move it into your template. This is going to save you a lot of time in the future. It's going to give you a lot of confidence when it comes to needing to shift your curriculum. If you're bumping into like, well, how do I know if this course is going to be a heavy lift? What is my, experience in certain content? What are the prereqs and coreqs? You can just have it all right in here. So I recommend doing this, grabbing it, and then you can add a note right to your Excel sheet. So you're going to click on the box, you're going to right click, you're going to add a new note. You're going to want to make it big because if you make it small, you won't see all the text. And then you can paste that catalog entry right in here. So as you go through your guide, you hover over that and you can see Cool. IEA is the prereq for strength of materials. I actually completed IEA in my first semester at RPI, so I'm perfectly fine to move on to that curriculum. It is a little extra detail, but it will, like I said, save you so much time in the future. And this really doesn't take that long um, to just go through quickly, add a note, new note, make it bigger. Boop, there you go. And then you can see it's Calc 2 and Physics 1, right? So again, I'm going to be good to take Thermo because I did Calc 2 actually in my fall semester and I did Physics 1 in my fall semester. So this is one of those tips and tricks that I think can be incredibly useful. More tips and tricks that don't involve the catalog, so I'm going to expand this again, are going back to the purple line. So I said I was going to come back to this earlier, so now we're going to talk about these electives. Haas is going to be a really simple example of it, but I want to show you where you can find the options. So for example, with the SOE design elective, if we scroll over to the left and look down, we're going to see somewhere in here the engineering design elective choices, and we're going to see the two options that are available to us. So as an engineer, to fulfill this elective, I could choose Introduction to Engineering Design, or I could choose Inventor Studio. Again, you can absolutely take these courses over to the college catalog to look them up to see if you can get more information on them. And I might have to remove the dash, but let me give this a try. Yeah, there we are. So Introduction to Engineering Design, so I can read the description of what this course is about. I can copy and paste the prerequisites. And, while I'm here, even though I don't have to make this decision today, I can add this note to the electives. This is going to be, right click, new note, right, make it bigger. Awesome. All right, this is going to be great, especially as you are likely not going to know exactly what you want to do for these electives at the end of your curriculum, which is perfectly acceptable for your plan with the SAM meeting. We do know that you might not know yet. You might be making a lot of big decisions about what direction you want to move in. I will do a plug for Aero and say that if this is something interesting, you're going to want to pay attention to this space vehicle design and talk to Kim. But I would say if anything sounds interesting to you in these options, going through and giving yourself these little notes is not going to hurt at all. But all through, you can see you have these choices, and if you look to the right of them, you can see capstone design. You come over here and you'll see capstone design, and then these are your choices. So that's how you're going to find out what the options are for most of the electives. For the electives that don't have a little hint next to them, usually it's the Haas core. So we have that whole worksheet, and again, there's a whole section a session coming up next week. And then there's the free elective. So for those of you who don't know, free electives can be anything that you want them to be. Commonly, free electives are used to fulfill minors. So if you're interested in, say, a management minor, you could plug in like Management 1100 and the other requirements for management. Sometimes students will reserve their free electives so that they can take more of these elective choices, which is obviously fine. And then that is where I want to give you the next piece of advice, because it can get pretty complicated pretty quickly, especially if you're like, I want to take all of these. Well, obviously only one of them is going to be used for your computation elective, and the others would be free electives. So you want to make sure that you're as clear as possible in your template of how each course is meeting your graduation requirements. So there's no confusion or question about it. So going back to our blank template, this is a really good example. So what you can do, simply, you can leave the note there, right? Put it in parentheses. You can write intro to econ. But also what you might want to do is say that fulfilled your Haas inquiry requirement, right? For the second one, maybe you took a writing course. I'm pretty sure that's a writing course that exists. Again, It is a Haas core elective, so you might want to keep that information on there, but you may also want to add that it was your communication intensive course. For these further down, especially for the SAM meeting when we're trying to help you and we're looking at hundreds of plans, I would continue to encourage you to leave this information, like the computation elective. And then, of course, you can type in whichever one, and actually, better than that, just copy and paste um, which one you're planning to pursue. So that way we know what you're thinking, we know exactly what the lab is, and then if there's part of you who's like, but I also really want to take this one and I'm going to make it a free elective, you just keep that free elective language there so that we know and we can better provide feedback based on what we see that you're thinking. So if something seems totally wild, we can have a conversation with you about it. Or if we're like, yeah, that actually sounds like fun. That sounds like a good idea. We will have that conversation. Cool. Okay. So, I think I've gone over a good chunk of the tips. So let me let me check my list really quickly. So, yeah. So this is really the crash course in building your template. To summarize quickly, keeping the blank template to house your plan is a really great place to start. Copying and pasting from your major specific plan so that you have this working document that is always safe, that you don't accidentally delete. Um, the other thing that you can do to clean up this document is you can delete any major that is not yours. And another tip that you could have is you could have like the SAM template, I'll just name it, but then maybe a year from now you think that you might want to study abroad, you can actually copy these tabs. So you just want to make sure you select the tab you want to copy, click create a copy. There we go, and you could write study abroad. Because of course you might change what the spring semester looks like if you want to study abroad during that time and fill it with Haas electives and free electives. But of course you still need to pay attention to prereqs and coreqs, right? So that allows you to do your planning a little bit simpler, and you have these different versions based on your different goals. So you could do one for study abroad, you could do one for multiple co-ops or internships, you could have one for a co-op in your third year versus a co-op in your second year. Um, there's no limit. You can make as many of these worksheets as you want, but maybe just have the one that you know is the one that you're really following, somehow labeled in a way that you understand. Um, cool. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Um, and we can open it up to questions. I do see there's questions in the chat. If you would prefer to unmute yourself to ask questions, it's a small enough group that I think probably your questions are similar to other students' questions. So now is the time. So for the first question, I see, is there a template for dual majors? And the answer is there's not. So what you will do is you will use the PDF that has been emailed out to you and use the blank template to piece together your four-year plan. The reason why we don't have one pre-made is because usually four-year plans take longer to approve than just a major's curriculum. So we get the four-year plans even into October, November of a semester. And then also keep in mind that there actually aren't a lot of approved and pre-existing templates. So pre-existing templates include the Aeromech dual, the computer and systems dual with computer science, electrical engineering with computer and systems, mechanical and DIS. There's really not a lot of them. So that's how you're going to build any dual templates. This is also a really helpful process for those of you who are considering a dual that hasn't been approved, because you will need a template in order to declare a non-existing dual. So this is the document and the process that will help you with that approval. Cool. Any other questions right now? So I have a question for you. Give me a thumbs up if you are currently an undeclared engineer. Sweet. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are also away was fine. Um, for those of you who are undeclared engineers, for your SAM meeting, what we ask is that you just pick at least one major that you are considering to go through the process of creating a 4-year plan. Part of the decision that you're going to make is very much based on the curriculum that you're going to head into and whether or not that curriculum is interesting to you. So it's a really good exercise to getting to know, where you might actually be headed. And also, you can see, like, just by this example, it doesn't take that long to throw together a 4-year plan. So if you feel like putting together more than one to really see what your options are, I will be more than happy to review what you bring to me. Um, cool. What other majors do I have in the room? You can throw it in the chat if you would like. I just want to see what we got. No other majors? You're all undeclared engineers? All right. CSE. Awesome. Sweet. Cool. Um, industrial, mechanical. Nice, nice. Nice. Okay. So we will have more major specific programs coming up. Your specific advisor, so Karen and Kelly and Bulos will send you a link to those major specific ones. So they're going to dig a little bit deeper into the curriculum. So this is great if you want to, go to the SOE Hub website, download your plan, get it started, and then you can bring that actual document that you're working on to the major specific one to polish it up. That's certainly your choice. You may discover as you're going through it independently that you actually have a handle on it, and that's okay too. Oh, and Kim just put in a date for hers, so hers will be Wednesday at 1 p.m. I think that's next week at 1 p.m. Cool. For aeronautical engineers, if I didn't say that, I'm already losing my brain. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up for today. We will